Hi, I'm Pam with PJ's Glass Creations. Feeling patriotic? Then check out this really cute bobblehead. He's made from fused glass. His head floats above his body, which makes it kind of a bobblehead. And you can get the step-by-step instructions here. Just follow along. Let's get started. I have pre-cut all of my pieces. I am assuming that if you are watching this video that you know how to cut. You can find the patterns, they look like this, on my Etsy site, pjsglasscreations.etsy.com. There's also a link in the description of this video. And the first thing that we need to do is paint the stripes on his hat, the stars on the brim of his hat, the flag, and the shoelaces. So we're going to start with the stripes on the hat, and I am using an Easy Fire enamel. I got it from AAE Glass, and it's important if you've used it before that you stir it pretty well before you use it. And if you don't have enamel, you could use stringers, you could use ribbons, whatever you want to use, anything that works for you. They don't all have to be exactly like mine. And I am just going to start in the middle. And I don't have to worry about getting all the way down here because this part's going to be covered up. And I'm going to go in the middle again. In the middle over here. And by dividing it each time in half, it allows me to get my stripes kind of evenly spaced. I'm going to go back and fix those all up later so that they're all uniform in size. And if your lines aren't perfect, don't worry about it, because once they're dry, like see here, I have this little spill here. I can scratch that off with a toothpick or my fingernail once everything's dry. The stars, I'm actually not going to use the enamels. I have this marking pen. Okay, where's the info on it? There it is. It's a Uniball Signo UM153. It's like a white gel marker, and this does not burn off in the kiln. And I have used this several times, so I know I've tested it and it works just fine. And I got mine on Amazon, and they're actually very cheap. Not too much money, and you get 3 of them in a package. And I'm just going to use a scrap piece of glass just to make sure this is flowing. Kind of flowing. I hope it's okay. And I'm going to make 3 stars. And the way I make a star is to do a triangle. Oh, and this is just not going to work for me. There we go. And then I cross it here. And I go point to point. And they're not going to be perfect stars. I'm okay with that. And you want to fill it in actually pretty well. You can always go in and add more later if you need to. But make sure you have quite a bit of paint from this pen in there. And I'll make the other 2 stars. And we're going to do the shoelaces first. So I'm going to put a dot and then just make kind of a shoelace or a bow shape. Put my tails to my bow and a couple of X's like shoelaces. Pretty easy. Dot, bow, and my X's. So his shoes are done. And these will dry without having to put them in the oven or anything. Also, I have his hands here. And I am going to put markings where his fingers would be. On one hand, and make sure that his thumbs are up on both of them. You can see I have my little indentation here, and then his thumb is up. And again, that will dry by itself. No need to put that in the oven or anything. And next I am using an enamel from AAE Glass. It's called Easy Fire Enamel. You can use whatever works for you. You can get enamels from Colors for Earth. You can use Rogue enamels. You can use glass line paint if you want. And I'm going to paint the details on the flag. And I can see my lines are going to be way too squishy in here, so I'm going to have to do some fixing up after it's dried. I'll just use a toothpick and kind of create those spaces that we need. I think what happened is I made maybe my blue part a little bit too wide. So I'm just going to make these really wide here, and I'll scratch out the excess. All right, we are done for now. I'm going to put this in a toaster oven for about 10 minutes at somewhere between 170 and 200 degrees. And that will really work to dry the enamel so you don't have to worry about smudging them. And you do see that I got a little piece of enamel here. I'm going to put that in the oven too because I can just scrape that away later. It's going to be easier than trying to fix it when it's wet and then they'll smear everywhere. So I'll be back in a minute. Now I'm not going to worry about down here too much because this bottom part here will be covered up. So I have all of my pieces cleaned up. I do need to make some dots on my flag for the stars, and I am not going to try to make 50. I'm just going to kind of draw them on there. I doubt anybody's going to be counting them anyway. You know what? I don't like the way that that's doing that. What I'm going to do instead is use this dotting tool and my white enamel. I think I'm going to try that instead. Oh yeah, much better. So this is going to have to go in the toaster oven again just to let those stars dry, and then we will be ready to assemble. All of my pieces are cleaned up and out of the kiln, so now we're ready to assemble. And I'm going to start with his head, and we're going to take his face and kind of fit it with the hat, and his brim we're going to put about right here. It doesn't go all the way down because we're going to have this other piece here. And I'm using super glue to do this. You can use whatever works for you. Glass tack, Elmer's. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of things. If you do use super glue, make sure it's not a gel. But I'm using super glue just because I want it to dry quickly. If I use Elmer's, it has to sit for a while. And next we're going to put his hat, the brim of his hat. About right there. And his beard. It's going to be about right there. Make sure it's not too far up because you do need to leave room for his eyes. And I am going to temporarily put something under his beard just to hold it up while it dries. And what I'm noticing is that my hat is not attaching to my head, and that's because there's really nothing. This doesn't go down far enough to attach to his face. So I'm just going to leave it as is. When I put it in the kiln, I will put this down in here. And I'm going to use tweezers and place his, well, maybe I should do his mustache first, just so we have a reference for placement. So we'll put his mustache about like that. And now I can see where I have room for his eyes. And this I find is a lot easier if you can use some tweezers. Actually, you can even move that hat out of the way, but I would put it back so you make sure you have it the eyes placed right though. All right, I can still see his eyes, so that looks good. Maybe they could go a little bit lower. Hopefully they're not dried yet. And we'll add his nose. And the nose I made ahead of time. If you looked on the pattern, you will see that it's 2 half-inch pieces of the almond striker. And I had 2 squares. I put 1 square this way, and then the other one I offset. And then I put it in at a full fuse, and we ended up with his mustache, or sorry, with his nose. All right, so that his hat looks good, his whole head looks good, so that part's done. I'm going to move this out of the way. And now we're ready for his body. First thing I'm going to do is put his feet on. And I'm trying to make him flush here so that when he's sitting on the wood base, it's actually flush. Next is the flag. I'm going to put this down as low as I can because otherwise his beard will kind of cover it. And his hands. Now, if you notice when you're holding something with your hands, your thumbs are up. So I'm going to make sure that my thumbs are up. And I'm going to put 1 on either side. They are going to hang off a little bit. Not so much that they're teetering. You still want it pretty secure on there. But you don't want it totally on the flag either. All right, so just like this. And we're now ready to put them in the kiln for a tack fuse. My Uncle Sam is done with the first firing, and the next part is to add some wires. And I'm going to show you with him face down, although we won't be able to glue it face down. I just want it to make sense to you. Basically what we're doing is sandwiching this 3-inch wire between the back of his face and this flesh-colored piece here. So this will be like this at the bottom of his face piece. Then the other piece, the other end of his wire, will be sandwiched like this at the top of his body. And you can see why I can't do it with him face down. It's just too many different levels. It just wouldn't work. And then this little wire is going to be sandwiched right here. And this wire is the one that we're going to use to put him into a base. So I'm going to put a wire like this, add my glue, and then, like I said, this piece needs to be down here at the bottom of his head, or the bottom of his face, I guess I should say. So it's about there. I'm kind of looking underneath. And I can use this wire here to kind of line my head up. And then this piece of wire is going to be under this top part of his body. And actually I might add a little bit of glue just right here. Make sure that this part of his body is not touching the tip of his beard. And then the last part, I'm going to sandwich it right here between his feet. It is a little tricky to do. Because you're kind of working blind. All right, I think we're good. I'm going to let this dry so that I can move it. I'm going to put it into the kiln for a tack fuse with only a 10-minute hold so that I can, so he won't be too melted. It's just enough that it's going to adhere those wires. When it comes out, we're going to bend the wires and put him in a base, and he'll be done. My Uncle Sam is out of the kiln once again, and he has all of his wires attached here on the back. And the next thing we need to do is just fold him up. We're almost done. And I'm going to fold his head all the way forward, so it's bending right here. So it's just bent in half. Then I am going to put my finger about halfway up his beard, I would say, on this wire. And I'm going to fold it back. So it's making like an S shape. And just squish it down. And he's done. You can see that his head kind of bobbles. You can see that it's kind of an S shape. And that makes his body float above his head. And the last thing we need to do is mount him. And I have this wire sticking out the bottom. And I am using a slice of wood. I think I got them at Hobby Lobby. It was like in a mesh bag. There were a whole bunch of them. And I'm going to test run first just to make sure that his feet actually touch the wood. I don't want it floating like way up here. If it's doing that, I need to cut this further. But that looks pretty good. I'm going to put some glue on the bottom of his feet where they touch. And on this wire, and the wire really is just to stabilize him. I know that we could just glue him on there, but it would be really easy for him to tip over. I'm going to stick it in the hole, and once it's dry, our Uncle Sam bobblehead is done. And just a side note, we are getting new countertops in our bathrooms, and we had to get some samples to see what looked good in our house. And when I did, I went to Lowe's and I got these samples of quartz, and I think they're normally about $10, but they were on sale for $5. They're really sturdy, really heavy. And I thought, you know, you could use a glass drill bit, because it also works in ceramics and stuff, and drill a hole in this, and it would be a nice sturdy base. So I might try some things with that too. But it was something I just discovered, so I thought I would mention it. So Uncle Sam is done. We're feeling pretty patriotic. Thanks for joining me. And take a look at all my other bobbleheads as well as some of my other videos. Have fun creating. Bye. I hope you had fun making this Uncle Sam bobblehead. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And check out my Etsy channel, PJ's Glass Creations. pjglass.etsy.com, or follow me on Facebook, PJ's Glass Creations. Until next time, see you later. Bye.